today. Just a reminder to keep yourself on mute when you're not sharing to limit the background noise. And today's webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you afterwards. All right, and so our speaker today is Myrna Lepre. And Myrna has been a teacher and educator for over 25 years, but her passion is working with individuals, parents, and families to strengthen their connection and find better ways of relating and communicating. As a generational healing coach, certified family and relationship coach, educator, and presenter, she says, I give individuals, parents, and families tools and support to discover the love and abilities that lie within. I believe that being a parent and grandparent allows us to reparent ourselves as we grow in our ability to give and receive genuine, unconditional love. She published a book on Amazon at the end of 2021 entitled 7 Gifts to Give Your Child Parenting That Will Touch Their Future. Ms. Lepre is passionate about teaching safe conversations and real love relationship skills that promote connection, understanding, respect, and joy. She and her husband have 3 sons, 3 daughter-in-laws, and 2 grandchildren. All right. And so let's see. Today she'll be sharing with us finding and becoming wise men and women. And without further ado, Myrna, welcome.
Thank you, Kendra. And hello, everyone. And just in case you didn't catch it, there will be a time that you will need some paper and pencil or pen. So you could grab it if you don't have those. Let me share my screen here. So those of you who have attended our webinars in the past, our overall theme is self-care isn't selfish. Heal yourself, heal your family, and heal the world. And we believe that change in the world starts with ourselves and our families. And as Kendra said, today is about finding and becoming wise men and women. So it's important to have a little bit of background, especially for those of you who may not be familiar with the real love concepts from Dr. Greg Bear. So I'm going to give some basic background. Greg Bear is known for his many books on real love. I think he's written more than 17 books. He became a very successful surgeon and teacher, but he also became a drug addict and tried to commit suicide at one point, feeling that his life was too much. And that was a wake-up call for him. And the real love concepts grew out of his search for healing and wholeness. And one of his books, which I'm drawing upon today, is Real Love for Wise Men and Women. So just to go through a few of the concepts, true love, real love, unconditional love is our reason to live. That kind of happiness can only be obtained when we find it for ourselves and we share it for others. So real love is unconditional love, meaning that we care about another person's happiness without expectation of getting anything back. And in his research, Greg Bear says that even if one person loves us unconditionally in our life, we can feel the connection to other people. We can begin to heal ourselves and be able to offer that to others. He also contrasts this with imitation love, which means that we are doing something to receive conditional approval. Praise, using sex, money, power, all kinds of addictions to try to maybe numb or heal or cover up the feeling of not being enough or loneliness or pain. And much of our suffering and conflict in our life comes from the fear of not being loved or accepted underneath it all. And so, to cope with that fear, what we do is we tend to hide our true selves behind our masks because we feel like people won't love us if they knew what we were really like. And we sometimes try to manipulate people or do things in exchange for conditional love in order to feel that we're accepted and to not feel alone. And Greg Bear calls these getting and protecting behaviors. So um, we do this in order to fill our emptiness. And he lists 4 categories: lying, not telling the truth about ourselves, attacking, getting angry, acting like a victim, blaming someone else, and running or clinging. So this might surprise you if you haven't thought about this before. You might think, but I don't lie. Um, the reality is that we tell others about the good points, but we hide our flaws. We hide our true feelings for fear of being hurt or not being accepted. So in a sense, that's lying because we're not telling the whole truth. We act like a victim by saying it's not our fault, or look what you did to me. You made me do this. We use our anger sometimes to intimidate others or make them feel guilty or withdraw our approval. And running can look like hiding or escaping, avoiding what we need to deal with at home or at work. So when I first started learning about real love, my husband and I were living in Georgia. And one of the big things for me, especially after I had 3 kids, was that I was overweight. And I didn't tell the truth I never told my husband how much I weighed. I'm sure that he could probably guess. I mean, by looking at me, let's be real. But I was hiding. And if the subject came up, I would get angry, I would deflect, or I would avoid. And um, when we're angry and afraid, almost everything can feel threatening. Sorry, gotta find out oh, there we go. It can become this vicious cycle. We become afraid and defensive, and we react. We attack or act like a victim or protect ourselves, or hurt someone else back if they've hurt us. And then other people get angry and criticize us. And it's this vicious cycle of mistrust and self-protection and getting injured over and over. And when we're angry, sometimes it might even feel like we're drowning because we don't have that lifeline of unconditional love. So this can be our reality. It's pretty obvious if this is when this is the case, that things are out of balance, something's missing. And I said, when we lived in Georgia, my husband and I started reading the Real Love books. And I had spent a lifetime of hiding. I tried to hide my fear and my frustration and my anger because I hated that aspect of my own family life growing up, which was very tumultuous and a lot of tension and mean words were said. But, you can't really press that down. And sometimes I became like a volcano kind of erupting. And my husband said to me, anger is always wrong because it hurts the other person. But for me, it almost took me to get angry to be able to access my emotions. So I didn't believe him. But finally, when we went, when we lived in Georgia, we went to a workshop, a weekend workshop at Greg Bear's home. And, we had to practice telling the truth about ourselves. And as I was talking about my regrets as a parent, Greg Bear said to me, you were a pretty lousy parent sometimes. And so, like, it took me aback a little bit. But even though it was hard to admit, he said it without any malice. He wasn't being mean. His face was kind, his words were calm. And through this process the weekend, it was liberating to acknowledge that, yes, I made a lot of mistakes, and yet I was being accepted and loved in spite of those or regardless of those. And so there's, so much confusion in the world about this world love. And there's um, the song, All We Need Is Love. But what we really are looking for is not just any kind of love, but it's the unconditional love. And then also beginning to recognize um, this imitation or conditional love and and make a choice in our life. So it starts by acknowledging that we have a choice. It starts with how I love myself and others, and I can decide to change. And the reality is that when we stop hiding who we really are, then we can find those who can love us unconditionally. So we can't change what has already happened in our lives up to this point. But we can learn to find and become wise men and women ourselves. We can change the world as we change our own lives. We can have an impact on others as we love the people around us and we become more loved and loving ourselves. So, finding and becoming wise men and women is what, or wise women and men is what the title is today. So, what does that mean? And how do we do that? And how do we find them? So, a wise person is anyone who feels loved and loving enough in any given moment that they can accept and love another person unconditionally. We don't have to wait until we become a person that is completely perfected in our realm of love. In any given moment, if I'm able to feel loved enough myself, then I can listen and care about another person. And becoming a wise person is the natural result of feeling loved and making a decision to share that love with others. So this is a really key point, is that we have a choice. We can choose to use those getting and protecting behaviors, or we can choose to recognize and acknowledge that we have them, that we've learned ways that only get us imitation love, and then making that choice, we can make changes. So, loving people involves an active concern about their happiness. And loving them is a result of seeing and accepting them and making conscious, loving choices. And it means deciding not to use our getting and protecting behaviors, even when other people use theirs. Even when someone else may get angry with us or attack us or act like a victim. So Greg Bear talks about that you can't tell the truth about yourself to everybody. You have to find people that can love and accept you. He grew up with a very difficult father. And he said that as he was learning these tools, these to be a more loving person, he had to drive maybe an hour to visit his father, and he could only stay for 5 or 10 minutes because that was how long he was able to be loving. And then he would leave and he would have to come back another time and continue. So it was a process of practicing and then talking to other people who help support him. So it doesn't mean that this is a change that happens overnight, and it doesn't mean that we can be able to give or receive love to just anyone. We have to find those wise people. And becoming a wise person takes practice. And it's all about our own personal transformation. It's not a theory. Like I'm giving you the gist of it, and you can read some of these books, but it takes the daily practice that supports us in becoming wise people. It's only when we move it maybe from our head into our hearts and into our relationships. So it's daily choices, telling the truth, listening with kindness, learning to forgive, letting go of control, and that's where wisdom is lived out. And as we do this for ourselves, then we can begin to create opportunities for others to respond in a similar way. And I'm going to give you some examples of this in just a moment. Um, but at first, we won't know if someone else can unconditionally love us, and maybe they won't know that either. We don't know. Bear says that we find wise men and women as we begin to tell the truth about ourselves, and we find those people who can accept and love us. So we become, find, and help create opportunities to see, accept, and love. And it's important to know that this takes faith, that it can happen, and courage to try. So even if it doesn't work well the first or second time, we have to keep trying. And faith is more than just a passive belief. It's a choice that we make to believe that this is worth it. This is something that I want. And then act on that belief, even when there's risk, even when we're nervous or scared. So we start with somebody who we already have a connection to, family, friends. As I said, it's not possible to tell the truth about ourselves to anyone. And we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where uh, we will get we'll get re-wounded. We want to be cautious about it. So it starts with choosing. Loving is a choice we make. And in the process of learning to love others, we heal ourselves. I like to say that, being a parent and a grandparent is such an opportunity to heal the past, because we can make different choices now than what was made with us, or what we made in the past. So, as an adult, we can continue to nurture our own soul. And in the essence, we can, even though we carry out about adult responsibilities, we can heal our own emotional wounds as we attend to the emotional health of others. And one key point is learning how to listen. I love this Chinese character, to listen, because it includes the ears to hear, but it's also seeing the person and giving our undivided attention to focus on them, and trying to understand with our heart, and using our mind to think about the whole process. So listening is being intentional when we listen with this kind of heart. And one of my favorite quotes these days is this quote by Dr. David Augsburger, who is an author and professor. And he says, being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. So if you think about that, learning to listen is an act of love. When we can be present and listen to another person, even we don't have to say anything, just listening is an act of love. Another point that I think is important to think about when we're talking about this process of learning to give and receive love is what this comes from, my material from Safe Conversations, that we in a relationship we have this sacred space between, and that's the point of connection. So with any two people, no matter what the relationship, there is their relationship, or this invisible space between. And no matter what kind of relationship, that space between has to be cared for. If we put into that space between kindness, appreciation, acknowledgement, acts of service, then we're nurturing that relationship. But if we put into that space between put downs and anger, frustration, accusation, criticism, then we're harming that relationship. And there's not safety to get closer, and there's not the wonder of connection. So why we tell the truth is because we create opportunities to feel seen, accepted, and loved. We feel we feel for who we are. We're not wearing a mask. We're not trying to gain something by being a certain way, acting a certain way. We're just being vulnerably ourselves. And when we are seen, accepted, and loved, then we create the opportunity to experience that, and also to create the possibility of making wiser choices. We can be accepted and loved for who we really are. And then, as we begin to do that for ourselves, we can do the same for others, our children, our partners, our friends, that they can also feel loved, seen, accepted, and loving, becoming more loving. So telling the truth about our imperfections creates the chance to be loved for who we are, warts and all. So just a little summary about how to get real love and work towards being a wise person is we start with having a desire to change. We exercise faith that this is possible, and we learn to tell the truth about ourselves, which takes practice. And then we begin to recognize those getting and protecting behaviors. We start recognizing them. The truth is that we can't change something that we're not aware of. So awareness is very important in this process. It's not a point of shame. It's like, I can't change something unless I realize, oh, I am not telling the truth about myself in this situation. So presence and listening are acts of love, and we have to care for the space between our relationships. So in a little bit, you're going to have the opportunity to share with someone in the breakout room. And don't worry if you feel nervous, or remember, it takes the decision to try and the courage to open up. So I'm going to give you some examples. This first one is something that happened in my own life. And as I go through these examples, you might want to have your paper and pen there so that you can jot something down, because you can decide what it is that you want to tell the truth about yourself. So back when I was working in a preschool and kindergarten situation, I had some co-workers who tried to draw me into gossiping about other people at work. So I decided I don't want to do that. I don't want to criticize them. So I found these words to say that told the truth about myself, about the teacher they were talking about. I noticed that she's been late several times, but I think she has a lot on her plate. I find it difficult to get my kids to school on time and get here on time some days. So I'm just acknowledging that I also struggle with this. Another thing we can say is, earlier, when I got upset with you, I was having a bad day. It wasn't your fault, and I'm sorry. Or, I'm sorry, I was distracted when you were telling me about your fight with your friend. This is maybe something you might tell your child, your teenager. Could we sit down on the couch and you can tell me more? So it starts with acknowledging the truth that I was distracted, and then inviting, can you tell me more? And say your spouse asks you if you remembered to pick up the dry cleaning and you forgot. So rather than getting defensive or lying or making an excuse, you could just say, today was so crazy it slipped my mind. I will make a note. I'll make myself a note to get it tomorrow. So again, acknowledging the mistake and doing something about it. And this is a really good one for me. Instead of sulking or getting angry about a difficult day and taking it out on my family, I have learned that I can say it has been a really tough day, and I could really use a hug. And my husband kind of knows this now, even without me asking, that sometimes the words don't have to be said. He can just do that. So here's some more examples of something that you might start with today. I feel uncomfortable doing this exercise. It's not easy for me to talk about myself. I've been pretty selfish all my life. What I want has been more important to me than what other people want. I worry a lot about what people think about me. I feel so self-conscious. Or I wish I had more friends. Sometimes I feel that I don't have any real friends and it's pretty lonely. Or I have a pretty bad temper and I'm impatient with my spouse, my kids, my coworkers a lot. Or when people ask how I'm doing, I say fine, even though I'm going through challenges. Or maybe not many people know that I take an antidepressant or something else about me, and I've been doing it for years. Or I'm embarrassed about being overweight and out of shape. It really makes me feel bad about myself. So again, these are just some examples of starters. So I want you to just, while I finish up the breakout rooms here, you can just take a moment. What is the truth that you can tell about yourself? Oop. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Okay, so I can put up the last slide. Yes, I'm going to share that. Sorry,
I didn't see us going in any groups.
not yet. Once
Oh, okay.
I was
Gotcha.
just giving you time to whoops. Can you see my slide now?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
I didn't share it. Sorry. Okay. So this is what you're going to do in just a minute. I'm going to start the I'm going to put you into groups. So when you get into the group, briefly introduce yourself, just your name and where you're from, and decide who will go first. And each person will have 3 minutes. And you just describe yourself. You don't talk about your spouse or your children or your coworkers. You just talk about something that's a truth about yourself. And the other person listens, only asking questions to clarify or to give an example. And the listener's role is very important because you're listening with the intent to accept and love this person. And then you will switch roles. I will send a message that it's time to switch. So you don't have to talk a lot. You're going to have only 3 minutes each. Okay. And then we'll come back and see what your experience was. So let me stop sharing here. All right. So everyone has 2 people in a room, except for one group has 3. So you might have to, I'll give you an extra minute or 2. All right. Opening the rooms now. So go ahead and join your room. Okay, welcome back, everyone. How was it? Is there anyone that would like to share about their experience? So this isn't about sharing the details of what was shared. What was it like to tell the truth about yourself or to be listened to with acceptance and love?
Maybe I can say something. I'm sorry, I cannot put my video on. I'm following from Italy, and it's a little later here. Um, but I just wanted to say that for me it was very nice. The sister with whom I talked, I really felt her sincerity,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt actually I felt very free to talk to her, and even what she shared, I could relate so much to it. Um, I don't know. Even though I don't know her and she doesn't know me, it felt like sharing with a friend. That was my feeling. So
Okay.
thank you. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've experienced this as well with, even though if we're strangers, that uh, when we connect in heart like this,
Mhm.
then we can feel that connection even through Zoom.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you. With anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Liliana.
Okay, I can share something. I also felt seen and heard with Andrea. We were together in a breakout room. Um, but also, what surprised me, I told the situation when I was hurt when I said something to my mom. But what surprised me is that I got an idea actually why I was hurt, because something was triggered from my childhood. At least I was not aware of it before.
Hmm.
But it came to me, this happened because there was similar situation in my childhood. That really, it's a really like the main situation
Hmm.
that I need to address first.
Hmm.
So that was interesting. Yeah, some kind of brought my light to my situation. Yeah, I was glad to talk to Andrea. Yeah, I think it's really nice when we can really. It's really, I can feel this sense of love, like kind of when you feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
Act of love. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and that reminds me of the the reality is that our past impacts our present relationship. Something happened in the past, it reminds us in the present, and that can be a trigger, or I like to refer it as awakening. This is something I should be paying attention to.
Mm.
Okay, Svetlana, go ahead.
Um, for our short conversation, I just felt that even we have people of different age and from different places, but we have some very similar concern, very similar struggles in life. Like we found very similar.
Hmm.
Like yeah.
Yeah, and it's good to focus on what we have in common, that rather than what we disagree about, right? That's how we can find connection. Okay, so I'm gonna just share a few other uh, responses from other from past workshops that I have done. So this is oops, hold on, let me make this full screen. This is something comments that people had. I felt afraid while I was trying to tell the truth about myself, but it got easier the more I did it, and it is a relief to be able to be myself with someone and stop hiding for a change. And another person said, when the other person talked about themselves, I felt closer. I didn't care about the mistakes you made. In fact, I care more about you now than I did before. So many times when we open up and we're honest and vulnerable, then that connection can be strengthened. And lastly, I felt like you are really listening to me, and I like that. I haven't felt heard like this in a long time. The reality is, many times when we listen, when other people listen to us, they're waiting to respond rather than waiting, really trying to understand us. So that's something we have to work on. Okay, so we're going to have one more chance to do this. And um, another opportunity is to share about fear. I like this little guppy who's trying to appear brave with a shark fin. So I'm going to give you some examples, and then you can choose something to talk about your own fears. So a fear can be, I'm afraid of dying, or I'm afraid of someone in my family dying. I'm afraid that if people really got to know me, they wouldn't like me, or they'd think I was stupid. I'm afraid my children don't love me. I fear that I'm a bad parent. I get so impatient and lose my cool with them. I hate how my marriage is right now and fear that it won't get better. Or I'm afraid I'll never meet my soulmate. These are just examples. So you can choose something for yourself to talk about. And again, I'm going to send I'm going to send you back to the same breakout rooms. Let's see here. All right. So just to check, Elaine, do you want to be in a breakout room or you don't?
I don't think she does.
She doesn't. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay.
But I don't think she knows how to do it. Right, Shauna?
Okay. So a couple people, you might have a new partner just because we had so few people move around, but we'll have the same, basically 3 minutes each, and then we'll come back if you would like to share again. That's open for you. So I'm opening the rooms now. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, is there anyone else who would like to share about their experience? Again, you don't need to go to the details about what was shared, more about your experience, what you learned, what you felt about yourself.
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Patty, yeah, this one was more fearful. Oh, the subject was fear. Yeah, this one was more fearful. I felt my heart getting more, as I'm talking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And not so bad listening to my partner do it because I was more, objective, not subjective, So yeah, that was it. My only observation I wanted to make a little more trying on the soul.
Yeah, yeah, definitely takes some courage to be able to do it for sure. Anyone else?
Courage was fine. It was just the sharing it or just the reminding myself of the fear that made the fear more fearful.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, good to laugh.
Anyone else like to share? Roseanne and then Claudine.
Yeah, that topic was a little harder. Just like Patty said, you feel it inside when you're talking about it. But it really did help that we actually had similar fears. Well, some of it was like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that one. It was a little bit triggering. But also like sharing that you're not alone in it. When you talk to other people about it, you're not alone, and it's actually helps to normalize it a little bit and easier to deal with. So yeah, it's very helpful, I think, to be honest and truthful about what we're going through. Liberating, actually.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Roseanne. Yeah, Claudine, you wanted to share?
Yes, thank you so much. For me, I afraid myself to express myself what I'm feeling because I avoid people to misunderstanding me. Yeah, because I have limits. And the second, I afraid to die when I think about my children because my husband already passed. I am like mom, I am like dad, and all the time I afraid that if I die, I will be with my children. Yeah, that's the 2 points I share. Yes.
Yeah, and also the fear comes sometimes from being misunderstood in the past, like someone didn't understand, and then we are afraid of that pain that comes from that.
Mm.
And that's
Yeah.
why it's important to find a safe way to share. Like I said, we don't necessarily tell the truth about ourselves to everybody. We have to find, or we do a little bit at a time. Yeah. Is there one more person who would like to share?
Hey, Myrna, can I share?
Sure. Go ahead, Romina.
Yes. Actually, I just want to share what you said right now in the end, like we don't share with just anybody. It's actually so true because I shared my fear with my partner in the breakout and she shared hers with me. And yeah, I was in tears sharing my fear, but then I also wanted to give her a big hug and, cry with her about her fear. And I thought it was so moving, that even though it's kind of very different fear, but also very similar fear. But when I've said this fear, for example, to my own mom, yeah, she kind of like denied this fear by saying, just don't talk about stuff like that, please. She said you shouldn't even mention stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of people, we avoid like topics that are, not beautiful, not pretty, like kind of ugly things to say, right? And then you feel kind of hurt and not heard, and you're like, oh, like maybe I am a little crazy in my head, and maybe I'm I don't know, I have like negative thoughts, like I'm a negative person for having these fears. But then it was so, I don't know, soothing to like share with somebody in this setting and feel compassion for the other person, feel compassion for yourself, and know that fears are normal and it's part of human experience. I don't know, I appreciate this exercise actually because, yeah, it just makes you feel you're not crazy or negative. You're just a human with a human experience and a human fear. And yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, actually, I'm going to talk about that. Just that I have a story that Greg Bear tells sometimes, and it's important for us to know that not everyone can accept who we are or can be able to they're not necessarily ready to do that. So when we use getting and protecting behaviors, then sometimes we are not open to love even when it's there. It's not open. So Greg Bear shares this story in one of his books, and he says, imagine that you're out of work, penniless and hungry, and every day you see me on the street carrying a basket of bread. And every day you say to me something to persuade me to give you a loaf of bread. You say something like, you probably don't know that my mom is sick. Could you please give me a bread to take to her? Which is a lie because you want the bread for yourself. Or you say, can I borrow one of those loaves? I'll pay you back tomorrow, which again is lying because you don't have any money to pay me back. Or maybe you say, I haven't eaten in days. If you don't give me some bread, I don't know what I'll do, which is not the truth because I gave you bread yesterday and the day before. And maybe you get really upset and say, give me some bread right now, which is kind of the attacking. But what you don't know is that on each occasion, I baked a loaf of bread specifically to give to you. And I want to offer it as a gift. But because you can't feel that, you're not ready to accept that I'm giving it unconditionally, then you are trying to manipulate me to give you the bread. And then my gift can only be a result of what you think you did or said. So that's sometimes the reality of offering real love is that people can't if we do that, we can't feel love. It's because we're not receiving it, and we think somehow we have to purchase it or trade or receive something in imitation love. So it's really important for us to recognize in ourselves and getting and protecting behavior, and then realize that sometimes people aren't ready to they're not at a place to receive that from us. And all we can do is try to respond from our own place of receiving and giving love, with kindness. And, hopefully we can, especially with those people who we're close to, that we can we can support them in making a change. And when we use getting and protecting behaviors, what happens is we're treating our pain we're treating the symptom instead of the real problem, which is that having a lifetime of not having the experience of unconditional love. And so the only way actually to do this is practicing to tell the truth about ourselves so that we can be seen, accepted, and loved. And so one suggestion I have is how to practice this is to find some friends and start a small group and read one of the Real Love books each week. Read a chapter and discuss it and practice telling the truth about yourself. There's the basic white book, Real Love, and then there's Real Love in Parenting, Real Love in Marriage, Wise Men and Women. I'll put some of this in the follow-up newsletter that we send out, but we need to help create opportunities for us to practice, and having some kind of small group or book club is one way to practice. So choosing real love isn't about changing other people, but it's about becoming a different person ourselves, and we change how we respond or how we interact. And the wise path is one of our own responsibility, owning our own choices, emotions, and behaviors, and learning to do this without blaming. And if we use like the example of a bucket of water, when our bucket is empty, we don't have anything to give. So no matter even how much we want to. So sometimes we have to seek out people who we can tell the truth about ourselves and how we can feel loved and accepted. And then our bucket can not only be full, but even overflowing. And that is, recognizing that, again, wise men and women don't have to be wise all the time, but in the moment, they can be able to have enough love and be able to give love with, without, they're filled up enough to be able to do that. So I'm going to stop sharing here and turn it back over to our MC, Kendra. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat.
All right. Thank you, Myrna. Thank you so much for that concept of being a wise man and woman. That's so important for us in our lives to be that for others and to also seek those out for ourselves. And then we got to practice today among each other of what that feels like. So now we know. It's a beautiful gift. And so does anyone have any questions for Myrna? We have some time for questions now. You can put it in the chat, or you can just unmute and ask a question that way.
I have a question.
Yes,
Myrna, you mentioned in the end that you, for example, could start a group. Can you give any example? How did you ever start any of these real love groups, or how did you approach the people? What were some of the tips you'd give to somebody starting one of these groups with one or two other people?
Yeah. So when I was first learning about this, first of all, I just read it with my husband. We read a bunch of the books, but then at our church, after Sunday service, we started maybe twice a month. We encouraged people to get the book. I kind of facilitated the group because I knew a little more than other people about real love, but it was just maybe we read a chapter before, like one chapter before we met, just like a typical book club. And then we shared highlights, and then we practiced just like we did today, sharing about telling the truth about yourself. So I could send out the slides that I used. You could share some of the examples that I gave if you want. I think that you start with your own experience and you say to other people, I'm learning about this and I would like some support in this. Would you like to join me? And for some people, maybe real love in parenting is easier if they have kids than the basic real love, because it's broken down in nine steps. I did a online program once with that, and it was exactly the same way. I put people, we read the chapters, and then I put people in breakout rooms to talk. The real love for wise men and women, I believe you need some foundation. I gave you the overview, but it's good to read one of the other books first because you need kind of to practice it so you understand it before you start like trying to be a wise person. And then what we did with that book was just we practiced being wise men and women for each other. But if you want more information, or you want to talk more, Romina, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Myrna. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and so it could be in person or on Zoom. It doesn't have to be, like we did it after church. And also, I always look on Amazon to buy used copies of the books, that's cheaper that way, but up to you.
All right. Thank you, Romina. That's a great question. Yes. Amina.
Oh, you have to unmute. There.
Yeah, mine is to thank Madam Mariana and Kendra. Thank you so much. Whenever I come for this program, you make our day.
Oh.
I'll say my back, you make my day.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's
Thank
like it's not a healing, but it's like you have washed, you have dried the wound. You have dried the wound. Not putting iodine or whatever, but you have made it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh,
especially in this time, what we are going through, and in some other places, have so many other things that are going around you. But when you come for such a program, for example, you had this question, examples of when somebody asks you, how are you? Back from the country where I come from, my Oka, Africa, in the morning, very early in the morning, because we grew in a country homes, people early morning by 6, they are up, they are going to the garden. So somebody will call a neighbor, how are you? Somebody will say, first of all, fine. Then after that, somebody relates the problem. What do you say about that, Madam Mariana?
Well, I think first of all, one response that we can have when someone asks how we are, instead of saying fine, if it's not true, we can say, oh, it's been a stressful day, but somehow I'm managing, seeing your beautiful face is giving me hope for today. But if somebody else is talking about their problems, what we can offer is just listening and saying, yeah, it sounds tough. And I can understand that's a lot to carry or a lot to go through. We can't change their situation, but we can be able to support with kind words, or, maybe we pick some flowers from our garden and give them to them, or we to send them a text, something like that. Just thinking of you. Sometimes that helps. Yeah. Thank you for your question. Patty, go ahead.
Mine is more share. Yes, thank you. A lot of valuable slides, etc. I just want to say that the one about well, I'll paraphrase it, but anyway, being careful who you share your soul with. I finally got that in my brain. I learned the hard way. You don't want to, well, I want to say rip off the Band-Aid to everybody, because not everybody is going to hold that your heart, in their heart. So I've learned now to pick and choose who I get really vulnerable with and who I don't. It's okay not to you want to, I want to make that extra connection, but sometimes you have to think about your own well-being at the end. In the end, is it really going to be a good idea that I got that personal with someone, or is it going to come back to bite me? I hate to say it that way. So yeah, anyway, just a little extra tidbit there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even in the Bible, it says, "Don't cast your pearls before swine." I mean, we have to be wise, and sometimes, if there's people who are particularly triggering, and they're not, whether they're immediate family or not, we had to protect ourselves. We had to find ways to become more loving before we can handle it, or maybe not at all, depending on if it's somebody that's at work or in my neighborhood who just is a critical person. Maybe I avoid it. Just like I said, Greg Bear was very like, it took him a long time to go visit his dad, and he did it only 5 minutes or 10 minutes at a time. We have to be wise that way.
Well, can you repeat that quote? Don't cast your pearls what?
Before swine, before pig.
Oh, gotcha. No, I know what it means. Yeah, before swine. Yeah.
Yeah. Be wise with who we share and who we, I mean, there's ways to be telling the truth without like letting the floodgates of our heart wide open. We can be cautious.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, may I say something as well?
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Myrna. Well, 2 points, but I've been attending like a live group. Well, first of all, we want to be like wise women and men right here, so this is a group that we're so happy that you can be with and I can be with, so that we can practice right here, right now, sharing our stuff and receiving love. And I've been attending a live group like every week for over a year now. And it's just a place where I really make myself, because it's so hard for me to say the truth. It's so hard for me to be honest, because I love to have my mask on. But this is a place where we're there just to share our truth. And so it's amazing how at the end of, like, if you do say anything in this group, all the other person can say is thank you. And at first, like, that was so weird and awkward for me to just like be well, like, whatever you say, they just say thank you, but also whatever someone else says, like, I can't, because I'm like, usually, well, it's probably one of my masks, but I'm like, yeah, you can do it, you got this, but there's nothing, there's just thank you, I hear you. And just that practice of just being listened and being able to say anything, like in the specific group that we've gotten to know, it's really amazing. And and I push myself to be open and take off my mask, but to do it just in little bits, like you said, not a floodgate and not to everyone. And then the second point, as a parent, like I need to check myself, like, okay, how full is my bucket right now? Because if I don't have anything, if my daughter comes in with a bunch of complaints and I am not doing well at this very moment, like I can practice respecting her too by being like, hey, I'd love to hear you and I can't right now. I'm not gonna like give you the right whatever right now because I'm not doing well at this very moment. Can I come back? Or like, can we do this again? So just noticing, like, if you're not in a good place, like saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's important, to recognize when we don't have enough to give and say, okay, I'm not ready to talk right now. Can we do it in 30 minutes? And find something music, a meditation, call a friend, just reminding, yourself about do tapping, whatever it is that helps you to connect with your own worthiness, your own filling up your love bucket. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. So just before we go, I wanted to share what's coming up next month. So next month, actually, our MC, Kendra, is going to be giving a talk. It will be on Saturday, October 11th, same time as today. And she's going to be talking about the book Fierce Intimacy by Terry Real. And Kendra, do you want to say a few words about this?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Myrna. So I have been coaching for a while, and the last year I have actually been coaching couples. I got to do training with Terry Real as he was coaching couples, and I was able to join his training program. And let me tell you, his stuff works. It is incredible. The transformation that I see in my couples that I'm coaching is just it warms my heart and it like saves my soul. I love it so much. I love to see things that actually work. Terry is about transformation, not like, oh, this helps a little, but no, he's like, people come to me when they want a whole new partner, like a whole new relationship. And so I'm going to pick out a few of the really juicy bits of this book and share with you during the presentation on Saturday. And then I'm going to have a follow-up small group for people who want to continue to dive in and get extra support with working with these tools and concepts and how to really impact their relationship in a big way. So it's going to be awesome. I hope you all can make it.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. And I will send out some resources in the follow-up newsletter for, what can you do to get started or to help when you feel like your bucket is empty. So thank you again. Have a wonderful Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Myrna.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Shauna. Bye. Bye, everybody else. Bye, Elaine. We'll talk later. We'll talk later today, Elaine, about what you thought.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Coming.
Take care.
Yeah.